We are ready to talk about Review and Preview 7.1.2. For question 19, they give you some information in a little table about time in seconds compared to distance in feet. Part A asks you to graph this data from the table, and on your answer sheet you've got a space set up just for that. Before you can graph anything, you're going to have to add some labels. So across the bottom, we want to label this as time in seconds. Up the vertical axis, we want to call that distance, and it's measured in feet. As far as the spacing goes, you've got enough room. I would leave every other one and number by tens. Skip a space, sorry, that's my fault. Skip a space and number by fives. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 will fit, but skip a space in between. Then for your vertical axis, this is where we'll skip a space and number up by tens. Now that you've got things labeled, you can use the information from the table, and if you're going to graph them, that simply means find 5 for time and go up to where 11 would be for distance, and you put a dot. So 4 different points to put on there. What you'll also want to do is connect them so that they make a line. If you put them in the right spot, they should line up in a straight line. And we connect it back here to the origin where those two axes cross at 0, 0. For part B, when it's asking about her rate of travel, you can use any of the pieces of information from the chart, but when it asks you for her rate, it's asking you how many feet does she travel in only 1 second. So there's probably some division that will have to happen, but how many feet in only 1 second? It's going to come out to either a decimal or a mixed number if you do that appropriately. For part C, if she travels at a rate of 75 feet per 30 seconds, would the line representing her distance and time be steeper or less steep than the graph of Beth's rate? So if we have our rate here, our graph for Beth, and in part B you're going to have her rate, you have to take the information they're telling you about Amy, and you're going to have to decide who is faster. Is Amy faster or is Beth faster? And that's what will help you make your decision for part C on whether the line will be steeper or less steep. So once you work through those steps to make your decision, what I'm looking for on part C would be either it is steeper because or it is less steep because. So make sure once you make that decision, you make it clear that this is your answer. On question 20, it says the area of the rectangle at right is 8 1/4 square inches, and they do tell you one of the side lengths. If we know the area and we know one of the side lengths, we can divide those to get the missing side length. You have to be sure that you take area and divide by the length, not the other way around. So area divided by the length that we know, and that will give you the width. Once you know the width, to find the perimeter, we've got 2 lengths, so 2 sides that are 4.5 inches, plus 2 widths. That's going to be whatever you come up with for the width. Add all 4 of those together to get the perimeter. Be sure you include a label. For question 21, they're asking for some representations of a portions web. So we want fraction, we want decimal, we want percent. Don't forget the words or pictures in the middle. The only one you might want to really watch out for would be part D. If the decimal is 2.45, then all of your representations should have a value that's more than 2 as well. So something to double check once you do part D. On question 22, we've got several expressions that they're asking you to simplify. For these 4, I would start by copying those expressions correctly. Do that carefully so that you don't miss any operations. Once you have it copied correctly, follow step by step through PEMDAS to decide what goes first. Here's what I do next. Don't forget, when we multiply and divide, it happens in the same step. We just go from left to right. Same for adding and subtracting. So if I have both adding and subtracting, I work from left to right when I get to that part of PEMDAS. On 23, it asks us to find some product. So all 4 of these parts are multiplying. On part B, you're going to want to make sure before you multiply that you turn 12% into a decimal. You can do that just like you would if you were working with it on a portions web. So make it a decimal, multiply it by 32.8, and for both B and C, watch out where your decimal point belongs once you get your answer. Be sure you go back up and count the number of digits out there behind the decimal point. That tells you how many places to move it to the left in the product. On part D, you're going to notice there's a mixed number. And for that mixed number in there, your first step should be make it an improper fraction, and then you can multiply straight across. For any of those, with fractions, make sure your answers are in simplest form before you're done.